nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out today. You think we have some important business on the agenda. I'm going to ask you, we're going to, as the old Proverbs, the scripture says, let all things be done decently in order. We will run this meeting in order. I'm not going to tolerate any outbursts or any sign waving or anything like that. We want to be circumspect and so that we can run this meeting in a timely manner. And so the first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes.
Move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any additions or subtractions from the minutes? All those in favor of approval of the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Next item is our proclamations and special recognitions. Councilor Barnes, I'm going to ask you to hold for just a second. Dr. Fenton, you've got a group that's standing here. They don't have chairs, so I'm going to ask you to introduce your Girl Up Greenville group.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm super excited to have with us tonight Girl Up Greenville. Girl Up Greenville is a free life enrichment program that works with middle and high school girls here in Greenville County. Their mission is to enrich young women with positive, formative experiences that replace obstacles with opportunities. At Girl Up Greenville, they are helping girls to further succeed. They work to initiate early, life-changing success by empowering girls to reach their highest potential, rooted in their worth and value. Girl Up Greenville accomplishes this through an after-school program, weekly enrichment classes, a summer program including summer internships throughout the community, and individual success planning. Last year, they provided services to over 100 girls from League Academy, Sevier Middle, Tanglewood Middle, Carolina High School, Berea High School, and Greenville High School. So please join me in congratulating them for the very good work that they do here in Greenville County.
Thank you, Dr. Fenton. Thank you, ladies, for joining us tonight. And wish we had some extra chairs, but make yourself at home, and thank you for coming. Appreciate it. I'm going to recognize Mr. Barnes now for a proclamation for the ERT founding members.
Mr. Taylor.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome Mr. Kelvin Taylor, who has began protected and serving the citizens of Greenville County in 1981, where he and fellow specialists started a rescue division that would become the county's official emergency rescue team, ERT, in 1986. And whereas his experience with ERT includes working with the Forest Commission since 1998, responding to wildland accidents as crew chief of the air rescue team since 2000. And he dropped innovative rescue and control methods that are being used today. Whereas always a champion for the rescue team, he served in the leadership roles working with emergency management, sheriff's office, Greenville County Fire Associations, and EMS to designated roles and responsibilities for during events. And whereas Mr. Taylor's extraordinary skills and unmatched experience were on display during the 2016 Pinnacle Mountain Fire, where on the front lines, he led strike teams, cutting fire breaks, monitoring the burns, and leading 2020. He was instrumental in creating COVID drive-through sites for first responders. And whereas during his 42 years of career, Mr. Taylor has spent more than 22,000 hours working with ERT in responding to accidents, training, and collaborating. Now, therefore, Greenville County Council honors the outstanding career of Mr. Kevin Taylor, thanking him for his decades of valuable considerations to our county, acknowledgement that his leadership and mentorship during the current and future emergency arena. The best trained and motivated teams in the nation. I'd like to speak from council, from the county council.
thank y'all very much for this honor, but I feel like I've got to share this with all the guys that are here that have worked with me for so long. And I don't know what compels folks to be first responders, but I can tell you that my Christian faith motivates me to do this. You see, I was called to be a servant. And how do you know that you're a servant? How do you know you're doing the right thing? Well, I feel good about going to work. I enjoy the people around me. Now, that's not to say that I enjoy the terrible circumstances that I get thrown into, but I enjoy turning those circumstances around to comfort somebody, to save property. So thank you very much for this honor, and thank you again. Thank you.
Taylor, for your service. I appreciate it. All right, next item on the agenda are appearances on current agenda items. We have 4 people that are signed up. Ms. McCaskill, will you call the names of folks that are going to be speaking tonight?
Mr. Chairman, the first speaker is Elizabeth Tinkle. Her topic is item 11D, the HMRT project.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Hinkle. You'll give us your name and address for the record.
Absolutely. I am Liv Tickle. I live in northern Greenville County, 5325 Deer Highway in Cleveland, 29635. It's been a while since I've been to county council, so it's good to see new faces and good to see old ones. I'd like to talk about conservation easements. They sound like a wonderful thing. We as property owners pay into something called the South Carolina Conservation Bank. Every time you buy and sell a piece of property, a fee goes to the South Carolina Conservation Bank. The bank pays $10,000 an acre for a conservation easement. So I have to question, now the taxpayers of Greenville County are also paying a fee for a property tax of $4.5 million to a conservation group. So, you know, it's like we're being double taxed. Also, I'd like to point out that when a piece of property goes under conservation easement, you're robbing the fire departments of that district, because that property no longer pays property tax, which is what your fire departments live off of. Your EMS lives off of it. Your county employees live off of that. So we're paying 3 times. In my fire district, there are 955 property owners. We have, hold on just a minute, we have 33,000 acres in my fire district. Of that, 21,000 acres pay no property tax. That means the rest of us have to pick up the bill to support our fire department. And I know that our fire department's been in here many, many times to the point where they probably got on your nerves, but they have no money. And it's because of conservation easements. You know, it's because of the fact that properties over there don't pay taxes into the county coffers. So I would like to speak against this $350,000 going to Camp Awanata. That's 650 acres. Awanata is going to conserve it anyway. They're not going to build anything on it. It's not going anywhere. Why are you paying Awanata $350,000 for something they're going to do anyway? You know, you can take that $350,000 and divide it up between the 2,300 county employees, and they would get a Christmas bonus, and they would love you for it.
Thank you, Ms. Tinkle.
Super.
right, come on up, Matt. Give us your name and address for the record.
Matthew Thomas, 110 Green Apple Way, Simpsonville, South Carolina, 29681. Evening, counselors. I consider it a privilege to get to know many of you guys personally, and it would not be an overstatement to say that I have complete confidence in this council, to administer the taxpayers of Greenville's dollars responsibly in a way that will pay off now and in the future. It's a deeply held belief for me that good government is often best achieved by limited government interference. That being said, I'm pleased to personally voice my support for the Camp Wanata project. Summary, Camp Wanata would see $350,000 from the county that would be used to leverage a total of $1.4 million, and that would protect roughly 540 acres of historic Camp Wanata via a perpetual conservation easement. The camp owners would invest all these funds in upgrades, enhancing the camp's viability and ensuring the protection of roughly 35 jobs while keeping the camp open to thousands of kids and users each year. I'm proud of the time and resources our trust has invested in the projects it has seen over the last 2 years. We've laid the groundwork so far, making strategic investments that protect some of the rich history in and around Greenville. From the mountains and the foothills to the southern part of the county and the Piedmont, there's a lot of history. And I have to imagine 30 years ago, there are a lot of areas of this county that no one ever thought we could build on. Farms, family farms, legacy properties that have been in families for hundreds of years. In the last decade, we have watched many of those pieces go into development as the county has grown. This tool gives us an opportunity for willing landowners who do not want to have to sacrifice maybe their property values to see property go into a new development. There is no shortage of folks in this county who will tell you that the worst thing they can think of that's going on in our community today is overdevelopment. We are providing a tool and making wise use of tax dollars to make investments to preserve key portions of history, key portions of natural resources, and building the tenants and keeping in place the tenants that made Greenville County have such a strong reputation to be such a great place to work and live. I believe this is a wise use of tax dollars, and it is needed not only now, it will pay strong dividends in the future, 30, 40, 50 years from now, when my kids are looking for a place to live and work. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate all your hard work on the HNRP Trust.
Mr. Chairman, your next speaker is John Ellers. His topic is item 11D, the HNRT project.
Welcome, Mr. John. If you'll give us your name and address for the record, please.
John Ellers, 277 Carson Road, Marietta, South Carolina. Okay, so I'd like to speak against the Camp Wanata. So we've got the Natural Resources Trust, and overall, I think in the budget that we're all struggling with is $4.5 million. Again, I feel like Ms. Tickle is a waste of money. This camp is already, it's conserved, and yet we're gonna get $350,000 so it can be conserved. And that doesn't add up to me, especially in a time where we're looking to find money. I don't believe for a moment that the Natural Land Trust and the Natural Historic Trust are going to preserve this land. I think in many cases across the country, we've seen in major cities where it's sprawled out, and somehow these properties that were donated in good faith, they become developments. I'm speaking against that. I live in that area. It is my backyard. It's God's country is what we call it up there. And there's plenty of people that would like to buy the property and keep it locked down. I'm not sure it's for sale. So in my opinion, it's already locked down. and being conserved. As far as the 35 people that it would continue to keep employed, well, they're employed now, so unless their jobs are in danger, and they're gonna be unemployed without this, I don't think that's true either. That's about all I've got on that.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, your last speaker is Christine Gunter. The topic is item 11D, HMRT project.
Kristen, are you here? There you are. Welcome. If you'll give us your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. There's a lot of traffic here tonight, so it took me a minute. I'm Kristen Austin Gunter. My address is 21 Richland Creek Drive, Greenville, South Carolina, 29609. I'm in District 22, and I'm representing the Nature Conservancy this evening in support of Camp Owanata project. There's a great importance and value this project will provide to Greenville County and way beyond. Camp Owanata is a Christian camp in District 17 that provides an overnight camp experience for Christian churches around the Southeast. So people, both youth and adults, can come to the beautiful upstate South Carolina to enjoy God's creation and get tonic for their soul. Camp Owanata project will conserve 550 acres of mountain views, forests, and streams that are actually providing drinking water downstream to local communities. While maintaining a Christian camp who hosts thousands of visitors a year and does employ over 30 people in part of a county where jobs are limited, the funds towards this project will actually leverage $1.1 million of other funding for the conservation easement for this camp. Camp Owanata is also giving up $740,000 in land value within this project. And as a nonprofit, they're not going to receive any value for it. They're doing this because they do want to make sure that their camp stays conserved for the long term. In the global pandemic that we just recently experienced, multiple camps went over. 1 in 12 camps went down throughout the U.S. Because they could not afford staying open and keeping their doors open. The Nature Conservancy holds a conservation easement at Asbury Hills Methodist Camp, just right over the road from Camp Owanata. And Camp Asbury Hills has actually said if it wasn't for doing the project with the Nature Conservancy and getting funds from the South Carolina Conservation Bank and other sources, they would have had to close their doors and sell their property during the pandemic. It is really what kept them afloat while they were out of business for 2 years. So there is a threat when we don't know a predicting future. So this project is going to benefit a lot of people, and it certainly will benefit nature for Greenville County. And it's something where we can all thrive. I will also make one other point that recently the Greenville watersheds celebrated 30 years of a conservation easement on both the Table Rock and North Saluda watersheds. We just celebrated with Greenville Water a couple of weeks ago while you were here talking about the budget. And I'm pleased to say 30 years later, that easement is intact, conserving our drinking water for the greater Greenville area. So thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, Ms. Gunter. Appreciate you coming in. All right, next item on our agenda are public hearings, and the first public hearing will be held by Dr. Pham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This public hearing is being held for the purpose of receiving citizen comments regarding an ordinance to amend the Greenville County Land Development Regulations to establish a waiting period for the submission of subdivision applications following a denial by the Planning Commission. Anybody wish to sign up to speak in favor?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Pratt, no one signed up for this public hearing.
Hearing that no one signed up, we'll declare this public hearing closed.
All right, next item on the agenda is for Chairman Kirkland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This public hearing is United Community Bank, First Amendment to the Fee Agreement and special source revenue credit. This public hearing is being held for the purpose of receiving comments from the public regarding an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a First Amendment to a fee in lieu of tax and special source credit agreement between Greenville County, South Carolina, and United Community Bank and other matters related thereto. Ms. McCaskill, is anyone signed up to speak in favor?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Kirby, no one has signed up for this public hearing.
Either in favor or opposed? Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I declare this public hearing closed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next item is yours, Legal One Capital.
Yes, sir. This public hearing is being held for the purpose of receiving comments from the public regarding an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of tax agreement by and between Greenville County and South Carolina and Legal One Capital LLC with respect to certain economic development property in the county whereby such property will be subject to certain payments in lieu of taxes and other matters related thereto. Ms. McCaskill, is anyone signed up to speak?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Kirby, no one has signed up for this public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I declare this public hearing closed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve.
All those in favor of approval of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Next item on the agenda are resolutions, and I'll have Chairman Kirby take the first one.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This resolution is Freecorp of South Carolina Incorporated and Walter USA LLC, partial assignment and assumption of resolution. I move for adoption a resolution authorizing and approving the partial assignment and assumption of a fee in lieu of tax agreement by and between Freecorp of South Carolina Incorporated and Walter USA LLC and other matters related thereto.
All right, you've heard the motion. Any questions on the resolution? All those in favor of adoption of the resolution say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Next item, Chairman Kirby, Project Slurp.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Project SLURP inducement resolution. I move for adoption a resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of an inducement agreement by and between Greenville County, South Carolina, and Project SLURP, whereby under certain conditions, Greenville County will execute a fee in lieu of tax and special source credit agreement with respect to a property in the county whereby the property would be subject to payment of certain fees in lieu of taxes and whereby a project company will be provide certain credits against fee payments and reimbursement of investment in related qualified infrastructure and providing for related matters.
All right, you've heard the motion. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor of adoption of the resolution say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Next item is the University Ridge Project Revenue Resolution. Councilor Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. University Ridge Project Revenue. On behalf of the committee, I move for adoption a resolution establishing a program pledging certain revenues from Greenville County's University Ridge redevelopment project to countywide reduction of the county's operating ad valorem property tax millage.
All right, you've heard the motion. Any questions on the motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Jubilakis?
can I please make one comment?
Sure.
I'd like to just say that in light of transparency, I'd like everyone to know this resolution is non-binding on this council or future county councils. However, it is a noble goal that we all can agree on.
All right, any other questions on the motion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Next item in the agenda are ordinances at third reading. And next up is item A, Galaxy Mountain Fire Service Area, Councilor Kirby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of the Finance Committee, I move for adoption at third reading an ordinance to provide for the millage rate to be levied on the Galaxy Mountain Fire Service Area.
Heard the motion. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor of adoption of the ordinance at third reading, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Next item, United Community Bank, Chairman Kirby.
Yes, sir. On behalf of the Finance Committee, I move for adoption at third reading an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a First Amendment to fee in lieu of tax and special source credit agreement between the Greenville County, South Carolina, and United Community Bank, and other matters related thereto.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor of adoption of the ordinance at third reading, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Next item, Legal One Capital, Chairman Kirkland.
Yes, sir. On behalf of the Finance Committee, I move for adoption at third reading, an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of tax agreement by and between Greenville County, South Carolina, and Lima One Capital LLC with respect to certain economic development property in the county, whereby such property will be subject to certain payments in lieu of taxes and other matters related thereto.
All right, any questions on the motion? All in favor of adoption of the ordinance at third reading, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Next item on the agenda, County of Greenville fiscal year 2024 budget, Councilor Kirkland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for adoption at third reading, an ordinance adopting the County of Greenville FY 2024 budget.
All right, you've heard the motion. All those in,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to suspend the rules to allow for amendments.
you've heard the motion. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor of suspending the rules, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed,
No.
the noes have it. So we will not suspend the rules. So the pending question is the adoption of the County of Greenville fiscal year 2024 budget. Any questions on the motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Jubilakis.
thank you. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Joe Cornell and his staff for all the work they put on making the budget. Unfortunately, I cannot support the budget as amended with a 15% millage increase. We have provided a proposal amended budget that we handed out that we didn't want to talk about, which is fine. We provided a budget that shows we can have a 0% increase. The budget we provided, it does not eliminate one job at any level or cuts any salaries. It freezes number of positions in the county. It eliminates extras, which include the following: affordable housing, green space, and council member and district expense funds. It reduces mass transit funding, reduces capital projects, and defers capital projects as well. If we as a group can agree to start there, we can work together to present the citizens with a more fiscally responsible budget. Thank you.
Mr. Harrison.
I think it's important, as Mr. Dukakis alluded to earlier, transparency. So in light of transparency, we have a copy of what he just said, and literally it says reduce respective departments' salary budgets by 1.9 million and lower the cost of living adjustments for existing staff by approximately 50%. So I don't know how you can sit here in front of these people and say you're not arguing to reduce any county employee salaries, because it's in writing right here and it's factually wrong. So just in the spirit of transparency, let's just make sure we're transparent across all aspects of this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Kirkland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This has been a hard process. It's been going on for quite a while now. Now we're at the moment of decision. The easiest thing for me to do would be to vote no. It's a hard decision. The only way to make a hard decision is to study the facts, weigh the pros and cons, use good judgment, and determine the best course. I've done that. And I take responsibility for my conclusions and my decision. And it's my duty at this time to say that I will vote yes for this budget.
Any other questions or comments on the motion? Ms. Seaman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As was mentioned, we owe a lot to our county employees and to all those related agencies. And I would just like all of our employees, who, by the way, are taxpayers, to please stand to be recognized. Thank you for what you all do every day for us. And as Mr. Kirby says, this has been a difficult process, but you do the difficult work every day, and it's our duty. We were elected to make hard decisions, And we were elected to do what's right, and sometimes those decisions aren't gonna be popular with everyone. But these are the faces of the people that we also have a responsibility to. And so, thank you so much for everything you do, and I hope this council will see it fit to pass the budget this evening. Thank you.
All right,
Mr. Chairman, I do have, it's a little page and a half, if you can indulge me. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thank you all for being here, and the presence of everybody shows the strength of our community and our democracy. I want to thank Administrator Cornell and his administrative staff for creating a county budget proposal that is organized and clearly presented. I also want to thank my fellow council members for all the tough work everyone has devoted to this process. I also want to thank the citizens who have devoted their time and expertise with emails, opinions, and suggestions. When we were given the administration's proposed budget, we were told that we must raise the millage on existing Greenville County residents and businesses, or we would have to cut deputies and public safety. But when you look at the details, and you see a very different picture. You see millions of dollars in new millage for government affordable housing schemes. You see a massive increase in taxpayer money for more city buses. You see millions for purchasing conservation easements. We need a budget that prioritizes our two main functions, public safety and roads. The administration's proposed budget, as amended, unnecessarily intertwines expensive progressive projects like affordable housing schemes, city bus expansion, and quadrupling money to remote conservation lands with cutting deputies and salaries. Higher taxes versus firing deputies is a straw man campaign and not the issue before us. The issue before us
if you have any more outbursts like that, you'll be asked to leave. I've asked you to keep your applause and all that to a minimum. We'd like to be heard. We'd like to talk about this budget without outbursts. Please continue.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The issue before us is prioritizing deputies, public safety, and roads over progressive spending schemes. As to affordable housing, it's a great aspiration that the government, how does adding bureaucracy and a government middleman provide incentives to wealthy developers make housing more affordable for the truly needy? How is $3,300 a month on Greenville's West End affordable housing? Likewise, throwing millions of dollars at city buses is not a reason for a tax increase. A city bus bureaucracy with huge buses on regular routes is a 1960s and 70s solution for major urban cities. We're living in a different world in Greenville in 2023. There are much better ways to efficiently help disadvantaged people where they need to be, get where they need to be at a much lower cost. Also, why should we contribute far more of the city? Why should we contribute far more than the city of Greenville for this bus bureaucracy? The city has budgeted $1.7 million for next year. We're budgeting $3 million, and we're budgeting $3.5 million after that for the city buses. Should your constituents contribute nearly twice as much as the city is willing to budget, all to the detriment of hiring new deputies and raising deputy pay? By the way, the city of Greenville did not raise their millage. Last, the proposed budget proposes a massive expansion of millions of dollars of taxpayer money to purchase remote conservation lands with extremely limited public use. I admire the great work that private conservation visionaries have achieved. I support continuing the $1 million a year that we already give to this. But I cannot agree to expanding that to $4.5 million. We desperately need more fields for youth soccer and other sports. Herb Klotz Park has organized youth soccer games and tournaments that go on until 11 o'clock at night. Our green space priority should be having fantastic ball fields as well as sports and dog parks that are close by to where our residents live. County Council can and should aggressively create conservation lands and slow new residential development through developer exactions, impact fees, and transfer of development rights. Exactions and impact fees force developers to pay for the cost of growth and set aside significant green space. There are other, I don't even go through the other ways of doing this, I don't want to belabor the point here. Last, we must ensure that we appoint planning commission members from a broad cross-section of residents so that new residential developments have the most careful and fair scrutiny legally allowed. Almost done. Further, we currently have 120 new businesses receiving about 160 FELO tax breaks. You saw a couple of them get passed tonight. Are these companies, many large international corporations, providing the affordable housing, transportation options, and green space that they are helping to create the need for? We are entrusted by our constituents to protect every single dollar of taxpayer money. Further, we who campaign as conservatives should honor our promises. We cannot advertise one thing and then deliver something else. We must intensely scrutinize the budget, get sound advice from the most experienced and engaged community business leaders, and then use our principled judgment to sift out what we simply cannot afford. In conclusion, we have clear orders from our constituents to fix the roads. This request for more taxes does not do that. We also need to prioritize public safety. We can do that by prioritizing the growing revenues the county brings in each year. We need to focus on priorities and not create new spending schemes. We must find a final version that protects all county positions, adds more deputy positions, provides for cost of living adjustments, but creates no new tax burden for Greenville County residents. I respectfully urge you to vote no on this budget and do the people's work of prioritizing each precious dollar that they pay in taxes.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw.
I actually agree with a lot of what Mr. Shaw said, but one thing I want to correct, I think we all have to, as leaders, we have to look deeper, as you mentioned, take a deep dive. Mr. Shaw, I think the three things you mentioned cutting, that I think you called schemes, the reality is if you know anything about managing growth, which I would argue is probably our top priority, you're saying roads, which I agree with are extremely important. Managing growth is, we hear about that not only week, every day, we hear about the amount of growth that we're seeing. Well, here's what's happening. Those are tools. All three things you mentioned are tools to help manage growth. Because what we're experiencing now, as you all know, everybody probably has heard this now, the county loses money on 4% owner-occupied homes. And the problem is they're expanding further and further out in the county, which is sprawl. We all know that word too. So what the things, the affordable housing, even transit and the trust, those are tools to help keep development compact and not strain our resources and our services, which is part of the reason we're in the position we're in now. Because our services, our deputies, all the services we provide are strained. They're having to go further out. They're having to service more homes, more residences. So one of the strategy is to keep more development compact, infill development, encourage that type of development to help reduce the strain on our services. So this is all, these are all tools. They're not schemes. They're not get rich schemes. They're nothing like that. When you actually do the due diligence and do the research, you can see there's methods and reasons for having these programs in place, because it helps manage growth, and that's one of our top priorities that as a council we've all decided we need to do. So that's why I support those programs and plan to support the budget this evening. Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
At this time, I would like to say that I will be supporting Mr. Kirby's motion. Public safety is our main operation right now. That's first, safety is the first thing for Greenville County, and I will be supporting that. And I support all EMS, fire departments, and everybody that's involved in working. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the motion? Mr. Cornell, your county administrator, do you have any comments?
The only comment I have this evening is, we presented a very sound fiscal plan to you. I do take exception when we talk about schemes and everything, because we don't play with schemes. I mean, there's no reason to. We focus on what the needs of the various operations throughout the county. And no department heads and elected officials don't come directly to council with their requests for positions and things like that, because state law is very clear. I'm not an attorney, but I do understand what state law says. So we follow state law exactly how we're supposed to. My job is to present you a budget, which I think we did very well. We have our challenges, and this is nothing new to those that have been on council. The new guys, you weren't here, but we have actually pointed this out in the past, that this day was coming. Actually, COVID delayed it, unfortunately for you all, but you just got on board. However, it had been talked about in retreats and meetings in the past, and so this should not be a surprise to any of the existing council members. The amount, perhaps, but keep in mind, you know, we can play with numbers all day, about percentage increases. It is, a larger increase for the county's percentage, but the county's percentage of the total bill is so small that it's really a very small increase to a property tax bill. And keep in mind, we haven't increased it for the last 28, 30 years. The only change has been was when recreation became a department of the county, and we just took a district tax and made it a county tax. So it was not an increase. In fact, we reduced it during that time frame. So there's been a lot of misinformation put out there about it. You know, growth has been helpful to the county over the years, and that's probably what's helped us keep from having to raise millage to some degree. But keep in mind, it takes approximately 221 average or medium-priced homes, 221 new medium-priced homes to pay for one new deputy. When a new deputy comes on board, there's a lot of costs associated with equipment training and so forth, plus hours. So it takes 221. So we're going to need thousands and thousands of new homes just to add law enforcement positions. Well, then we have EMS, we have other sources too. So keep in mind, you know, our growth is helpful, but we've outstripped our growth currently. And so this adjustment is needed. Otherwise, I would not have recommended it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Mr. Dr. Van?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of quick things, I think, from a 3,000-foot view. First, let me applaud the administrator and Mr. Hansley. You guys have done a great job. You guys would have like 100 years of experience together. I hope you don't like me to say that out loud. But we're at a crossroads in Greenville County. We have transformed from a large town to a small city. And with that, there are growing pains. And we're in positions of leadership to prepare the future and make sure there is a future for the next generation. That's kind of what we're called to do. So it's real simple. We really either have to decide, either we're gonna be a Greenville that goes forward or a Greenville that goes backwards. And that's where we are. I've said many times before that we have to make a decision. Either we're gonna choose to live in our grandchildren's Greenville County, or we're gonna choose to live in our grandmother's Greenville County. And I used to say this constantly 3 years ago, we went through the same thing. We, as in leadership, we cannot lead a county with 500,000 people with a foot in the past and a toe in the future. We are elected to lead. And all I ask is that we look at the numbers, read, see where we are, make good decisions to make sure we keep the citizens of Greenville County safe, to make sure when you have a health emergency, that somebody can get there to see about you in short order, and just have a good quality of life and make this place really what it says it is. And so I'll be voting for this budget, and I certainly would encourage my colleagues. Actually, one man called me, Chris was one, and was complaining about the $28, but he's over 65, so we do the homestead exemption, he got 17. I said, listen, if you quit calling me and quit texting me, I would pay the $17 for you for the next 5 years if you leave me alone. I haven't heard any more from him. So anyway, I'll be supporting the budget, and I encourage my colleagues to do the same.
I'm going to turn the gavel over to Vice Chair because I would like to be recognized to make a few comments.
Thank you, Mr. Tripp.
All right. This has been a tough process. Let me just be the first to say there's not a person up here that wants to raise taxes. My mother's a widow. She's on a fixed income. I have to go look her in the eye and explain the misinformation and lies that people are spreading in this community. This budget debate was kicked off with the big lie. Your taxes are going to go up 23%. That's a lie. Bottom line here tonight, we have competing visions. And with all due respect to the other side, let me tell you what their vision is. Their vision is calling from the 1990s by a man named Grover Norquist, who said he wanted to put the government in a bathtub and drown it. That's what the other side of this debate wants to do. They want to drown government in the bathtub. If you don't believe it, look at the amendment that they put up here. It would cut law enforcement. It would cut state and county employees' cost of living adjustments. It would cut affordable housing and green space. Cut, cut, cut. Drown the baby in the bathtub. On the other hand, while our vision may not be perfect, it's about Greenville moving forward, not moving backwards. When I took this chairman's position, I talked clearly about the fact that we have 250,000 people coming into this county over the next 20 to 30 years. Now, my grandmama, my mom, people in the past, they don't want to look at that and they're not happy about the new growth coming into Greenville County, but it's coming whether we want to or not. And we either have to work as leaders and deal with the infrastructure that we have to build in this county, or we're going to turn into another Atlanta or Charlotte or LA or whatever big, bad, sprawling city you want to talk about. And so our vision is to make sure that we have the proper infrastructure in place for Greenville County so that we can move forward, honor the people that are already here, and welcome with open arms the people that are coming to Greenville County. I believe we can do that. I am convinced that we can manage our growth, that we can do right by our forebears and for the people that are coming ahead of us. But what we can't do is cut our way to prosperity. And I will be damned as chairman if I'm going to cut law enforcement so people can win their war slogans on this dais. Not for me, no way. I vote yes.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments on the motion?
Make a roll call request, please, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Blunt.
I would just like to point out something I think we should all have said already, is that there's 12 of us represented here. We represent 12 different districts. Each district's different, pretty significantly different. So the other side, which I've kind of been put on by proxy, has nothing to do with cutting law enforcement, has nothing to do with cutting any kind of employment for any Greenville County employee. It has to do with the fact that there is stuff in the budget that could come before that. So I have to answer at the end of the day the 50,000 plus people I represent in my district. We have a lot of people on fixed income. We have people in pretty low poverty areas to where when I hear the comment made, it's not that much money. $28 is a lot of money to some people. So to act like it's not, it's pretty ridiculous in my opinion. So I'm not voting for the budget, but it has nothing to do with me wanting to cut any Greenville County employees' pay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since everybody else is gonna say something, I figure I'd say something too. I'm the only person up here that has stood next to some of these guys in uniform for a short period of time. I understand what they go through on a day-to-day basis. And, while we can all sit here and come on both sides of things, when I was running for office, pretty much everybody said they wanted better than they had. I'm committed to continuing looking for better. This proposal in front of us, I don't know how you cut $1.9 million in salary without firing people, so I think that is disingenuous. I think looking at $460,000 of sheriff's vehicles for new positions is pretty irresponsible. But I'm also competing with that, with competing with the other side of this. We have to take care of our taxpayers. Like Mr. Blunt said, $20 is a lot of money for some people. So to say that we don't have needs as a county that requires an increase would be something we have to look at. I'm committed to continue to work on this. While my vote tonight will be a no. I'm committed to continue to look at this.
Didn't sign on to do a budget, but it's part of the process. Like you, Mr. Chairman, my mother is say, will be 79, mom's watching that birthday, 28. She can't get out and make any extra money, so it is more money there. But where does it stop? Where do we stop raising? If we raise it this time, what are we gonna do in 4 years when none of us may be here? We may not be here in 4 years when the budget comes up again, that's not. Like Joey said, I'm all for it. I wanna see what we can do to get it as low as we possibly can. And again, I live out in the southern part of the county, so law enforcement, how they get to where we are, it's a time-consuming effort on their part. So no way do I want to cut our police force or EMTs. But I think we owe it to our citizens to look at it and dig in and see what we can do.
All right, thank you, Ms. Bradley. Ms. Seaman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things. One, I want to remind my colleagues, yes, we are individual districts, but we also have a responsibility to make decisions for the county as a whole. It is hard to not have an at-large representation among our body, like some of our municipalities have, but that is part of the job. And I'm not going to give those of you a pass who say that you support law enforcement and affordable housing and green space, and you're a no. Because the staff, the administration has provided us a budget and we have made some concessions. This is the best option on the table. And if you think in 3 days or in 5 days or come June 30th, when we have to shut the county down because by state law we have to have a budget,
Please hold your comments.
that is a real possibility and a real thing. And I would just remind you to think about the fact that we've had experts come to this table. We have had public hearings. We've had a workshop. It's been in finance. It's been to our communications committee. We've had meetings. You've had ample opportunity to ask questions, either from this dais, individually. The administrator has had meetings with all of us, with some of your constituents. Give us something then.
All right. Any other questions or comments? There's been a request for roll call. Ms. Regina, please call the roll.
Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Blunt?
No.
Mr. Shaw?
No.
Mr. Harrison?
Yes.
Mr. Chewbacca?
No.
Mr. Richards?
Yes.
Mr. Fant?
Yes.
Mr. Bradley?
No.
Mr. Kirkland?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
No.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Ms. Seaman?
Ladies and gentlemen, my vote should have to be, would like to be a yes tonight, but for procedural reasons, and so I can be on the prevailing side, so I can ask for reconsideration, I have to vote no.
6 in favor, 6 opposed.
All right. The motion to adopt the County of Greenville budget at third reading fails. The next item on the agenda. The next item on the agenda is our zoning ordinances at second reading. Dr. Pham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. CZ 2023-032, property located at 1008 Wesley Road, Taylor's, requesting rezoning from RM 20 to I1. Planning Commission and committee recommended approval. On behalf of the committee, I move approval of the ordinance at second reading.
You've heard the motion. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Next one, Dr. Pham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. CZ 2023-035, property located at 812 and 820 Antioch Church Road, Greenville, requesting rezoning from RS to I1. The Planning Commission and committee recommended approval. On behalf of the committee, I move approval of the ordinance at second reading.
All right, any questions on the motion? All those in favor of adoption of the zoning ordinance CC 2023-35, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? And the ayes have it. Ms. Jubal.
Yeah, I have a potential conflict on next, I've notified the clerk, and I'm gonna step away.
Okay, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're gonna exit, if you could, just keep it down so we can conduct business. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is CZ 2023-36, Dr. Pham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Property located at Highway 25 and Donaldson Road, Greenville, requesting rezoning from C2 to S1. The Planning Commission and the committee recommended approval. On behalf of the committee, I move approval of the ordinance at second reading.
All right, any questions on the motion? All those in favor of adoption of the motion, say aye. Those opposed, the ayes have it. Next item, Greenville County zoning ordinance text amendment, Dr. Pham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of the committee, I move for approval at second reading an ordinance to amend the Greenville County zoning ordinance to amend Article 5, Section 59.7-8, patio or deck. The Planning Commission and the committee recommended approval.
All right, any questions on the motion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Let's see, one more for you, Dr. Pham, Greenville County Comprehensive Plan Amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of the committee, I move for approval at second reading an ordinance to adopt the Augusta Road Corridor Strategic Plan as an amendment to the Greenville County Comprehensive Plan 2020. The Planning Commission and the committee recommended approval. On behalf of the committee, I move for approval.
Any questions on the motion? All those in favor of the adoption of the ordinance, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Last item in that section is Campbell Wanata, Councilor Kerwin.
Yes, sir. I move for adoption at second reading an ordinance authorizing the Greenville County Historic and Natural Resources Trust, HNRT, to provide funding for the Camp Juanita project.
All right. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor of adoption of the ordinance, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Next item, our ordinances at first reading. We'll do zoning ordinances, Dr. Pham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I present for first reading zoning dockets ZZ 2023-038, CZ 23-041 through CZ 2023-045.
All right, these will go to P&D. Next item, Chairman Kerwin, Project Power.
I present for first reading an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of tax agreement between Greenville County, South Carolina, and a company or companies known to the county at this time as Project Power, with respect to certain economic development property in the county, whereby such property will be subject to certain payments in lieu of taxes, including the provision of certain special source credits and other matters related thereto.
All right, and that will stay on the council floor. Next item, Chairman Kerwin.
Yes, sir. I present for first reading an ordinance to amend the agreement to the development of a joint county industrial and business park, 2010 park of Anderson and Greenville counties to enlarge the park. This is related to Project Power.
Okay, that'll stay on council floor as well. Project Safety, Chairman Kerwin.
Yes, sir. I present for first reading an ordinance authorizing execution and delivery of a special source credit agreement between Greenville County, South Carolina, and Gordon Street Affordable LP with respect to certain investment in qualifying infrastructure related to the construction of a multi-family commercial housing development in the county to include certain affordable and workforce housing in the county, whereby such project will be subject to payments in lieu of taxes by virtue of its location in a joint county industrial and business park, and to application of certain special source credits and other matters related thereto.
Thank you. That will stay on the council floor as well. Final one, Chairman Kerwin.
Yes, sir. Anderson, Greenville, Monte County Industrial Business Park, 2010 Park Agreement Project Safe. I present for first reading an ordinance to amend an agreement for the development of a joint county industrial and business park, 2020 park of Anderson County and Greenville County, so as to enlarge the park.
All right, we'll keep that on the floor as well. No committee reports, administrative report. All right, requests and motions by council members. Mr. Barnes.
I have done.
Mr. Blunt. Mr. Shaw.
Nothing.
Mr. Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have something quick I'd like to share. So last weekend, the BMW charity program took place, hosted at Thornblade Club in District 21 and also Carolina Country Club in Spartanburg. Great event. It's nationally recognized, televised across the country. Great attendance this year. Raised a lot of money for local charities, and it was announced that a 4-year extension of that event will continue for another 4 years. And again, it's in District 21, but it has a wide reach across the country, really. So I'm honored to have that event in my district, and excited for the next 4 years it'll be back. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Mr. Jubilakis?
I have nothing, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Sand?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of items. Just want to commend the members of the Planning and Development Committee. I think we didn't know how our third Wednesdays would go, where we would try to do collaboration to try to address growth management in a strategic way where we weren't under the pressure of voting, but we could just kind of talk in community with staff. And let me applaud them for their visionary leadership. It's a great support that they've given us in exchange and dialogue. And their willingness, after we said we weren't going to meet on third Wednesdays, to agree to meet on third Wednesday, just for us to talk and figure out best approaches. And as Mr. Harrison talked about, one of the things we're trying to do is modernize our growth strategies and bring them into the modern era. And I'm giving y'all a heads up. We're trying to do the low-hanging fruit, stuff that he and I can agree on. The low-hanging fruit. We've never done a community septic system in Greenville County before, but it keeps coming up and staff is always having to say no, but it's never been codified. So eventually, Mr. Tolleson, you'll be at the courthouse because nobody said you can't do it. So now we don't have poop fields everywhere, and we're getting rid of any future possibility. Yeah, there's poop fields. We'll get rid of the possibility of community septic systems in Greenville County. So that'll be coming your way here shortly. Low-hanging stuff first. It'll probably get a little more complicated as we move along. But we're doing the low-hanging fruit first. But I just want to appreciate, because I had to ask them, were they willing to meet on Wednesdays for this kind of work? And to a person, they all said yes. They all come. And it's been great. Again, applaud T and Rashid and the entire staff for the work that they do. And last thing with regards to the SCTAC update, SCTAC was honored to host Secretary of Commerce Harry Lightsey for an in-depth tour and briefing of the Lockheed Martin F-16 production facilities at Donaldsonville. It was Lightsey's third visit to SCTAC campus in the past 12 months, indicating strong support from the state's Chief Economic Development Officer and his team. Those are my comments, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Stan. Mr. Bradley?
I would like to echo Dr. Penn on the P&D, on the septic problem and issue. Great to have a staff to work with, that we can come together and discuss this stuff, and I look forward to your report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Irvin.
Nothing tonight, sir.
Mr. Russo?
Nothing tonight.
Ms. Singh?
Sure. Mr. Kerwin, I was hoping you might mention, but I'll thank you for helping with the ribbon cutting of the Swamp Rabbit Trail, another section of it open, another great work by our county employees and great collaboration we have with all of our municipalities, but I'm glad to see that that continues.
All right, let me just close out by saying, we've had relatively strong decorum during this budget process. There haven't been any major outbursts, and I appreciate that. I do want to just let you know, gently remind you, by state law, we have to pass a budget by June 30th. If we do not pass a budget by June 30th, our administrator does not have the authority to spend money. So we are in a world of hurt if we don't pass something by June 30th. It's not us setting that law, it's the state. So we're gonna have to roll up our sleeves and get to work. If we have to have marathon sessions to work through issues, we're gonna do that. We're gonna take a couple days off and catch a breath and try to work behind the scenes to see if we can come up with some resolutions. But I'd say starting Friday, be prepared for special meetings. And I'll try to accommodate people's schedules as much as I can, but we cannot fail to have a budget by June 30th. So that's what I have. Oh, Mr. Mitchell, I'm sorry, Mr. Mitchell.
It's okay, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate all the comments tonight, and especially your comments at the end. I have nothing further.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. All right, one final motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, the ayes have it, we're adjourned.
Sorry, he's coming out, Warren. Yeah, Councilman, let's get you standing like right here for us. Right. There you go.
I can only set my belly in so long.
No, don't worry. We'll keep your chest up for you. We promise. You good?
How do you do that?
Huh? You know what? Where's you got the well, I asked how do you not I said you give me the Y'all ready?
Andre, you good?
All right. Yeah, well, that's I'm not gonna get into that. Yeah. No, probably you can stare at this gentleman right here when you ask.
Well, I'll ask you a question. All right. I talked to him last Friday, and you kind of unsure about what made you come to this decision?
Not much again.
I didn't want to be part of a
Not much
Greenville County. There's money in there I think we can pick up here and there. And I'm not necessarily for a zero increase. I think they do what we can do. We'll make it a profit where everybody can see what we're doing, where it doesn't come from. And that'll be what we have to say.
Did anything change for you between the second and the third reading of this budget?
Not really. The go from 11 to 7 and keep it on the table so we can negotiate, we can slow down, we try, and then after we stay at 7 mil, the goal is to keep it out here so we can just have all the record and we get it on down to a manageable amount.
And now the clock is ticking for you all. You know, but June 30th is the deadline. You're gonna have there's gonna be a lot of work ahead of you. How are y'all preparing, and I guess what's the ultimate outcome you're hoping for?
Somewhere between 0 and 7 mil. Somewhere between that is the magic number, and I'm willing to work to that number and get it down where it's manageable. Can we do something this year? So next year, I don't know. Can we cut here and there? I think we can. $375 million. There ought to be some cuts. I run a small business, and $1 million is a great year for us, and I can always find cuts. Not cutting people, but slashing some prices here and there on different stuff. Also, we can start looking at gaining revenue. What we can do on the next budget, we can increase impact fees. Businesses now, they forced to register in Greenville County, or you don't operate, but we don't pay anything. I would say that would be a sizable income from a negative to a positive. So there's several things we can work on. But immediately we can just look at trying to get the millage as low as we possibly can. And I don't think we've done it yet.
And I mean, tonight's council meeting was filled with county employees, first responders. And, I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, playing devil's advocate, they look pretty gutted when they saw it fail. Is there anything you have to say to that?
They'll keep their jobs and we'll see what they get a raise. There's little things to go. I've seen it, I've studied the budget. I'd have people who are a lot smarter than me look at the budget, who have done $5 billion budgets, and there's fat in there we can cut.
Anything else, guys? Good? You got one?
As long as we can get eight. I believe we can get eight.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the time, sir.
so much.
Appreciate you. You did great.
Go somewhere where it's not so loud. Okay. So you want to get your trip set up?
Yeah, but you know, how are you? Okay, where do you want to set up at? Can we go somewhere where it's more quiet? Out in the hallway. Yeah, it's fine.